think it did abruptly.
Music playing? What's happening?
We lost someone already.
Where'd Joshua go? There he is.
I don't know what happened. I just couldn't get in.
We did it. We made it. The intro worked. It only did a couple weird things, so that's fine. And then there was music playing, and then Joshua disappeared. But other than that, we have all arrived. I brought alcohol. Anybody else? Yeah.
Water.
Well, aren't you fancy?
The men are not representing.
No.
I'll hold it down with my beer.
1 for girls, 0 for the boys.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we will keep score.
It's gotta be battle
Team sport.
Yeah, Jen, you're in charge of the scorekeeping, so that we can later mock the participants in whatever way we find most amusing.
That sounds like a plan.
Okay, great. Well, welcome to the party. Happy Friday, Unqualified Life. And Andrew, yes, that was Autopilot by Apollo. And you know why? Because it was the first thing that popped up when it said, do you want to add audio? And I was like, this one. I'd like to say that I'm super cool in things, but I'm not. DJ Robb, do you approve of the audio selection?
I do, because contextually it went really well with the editing.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. So
Yeah.
I can always drink wine whilst editing videos.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Clearly it works for you.
My only complaint is that it came on camera at like 7 seconds left. And so I was kind of like, what are we doing here? But maybe that was the thing.
7 seconds left.
I feel like there was still time left on the countdown when our faces popped. That could be me. I don't know.
Listen, Ariel, no one needs your facts here today.
I just had to give a shout out to make myself feel special. This is a special Michael Eckstein
Oh my gosh,
merch.
Where's mine?
So this is the only one that exists in this color. There are 2 others out there. So I'm feeling very special.
Whatever.
So let me know in the comments how jealous you are. That would make me very happy.
Okay, it's time to redirect away from Ariel and talk about how unqualified we are. So if anybody has participated in this shenanigan up until this point, we have all wonderfully discussed the varying and atrocious ways in which we are unqualified to do whatever it is that we do. And that's fun. So, what? Wait,
So that happened.
So that happened, and it was lovely. There was depth to the conversation. Though I'm feeling none of the depth now, and it could be the wine. So who's in charge of this? Look, we have a question. Jason says, I'd give my life to get over that hump to success for one day. What got you there? Wait, who's at success? Ariel?
I'm kind of curious.
What's success?
I said this yesterday, and I'm like, this is a strong core belief that I hold. If you don't have some kind of imposter syndrome where you think you have no idea what you're doing, you're not qualified, you're never going to figure it out, you're not doing big enough stuff. So the fact that you feel like you're not over the hump to success means you're shooting for a worthwhile goal. So that, life is a journey, and every day we're learning. Nobody just sticks their flag in the ground and says, okay, I'm successful. I'm done. I've climbed Mount Everest, because then you still have to get back down. So that's my for that.
You can get back down.
I love that, because one of the things that made me feel confident to make this last leap to quit my secure job with the pay, the bells and whistles, to do what I'm doing now is someone I know who I got in some deep conversations with, who is highly, highly successful beyond anyone's possible imaginations, like in the multi-millionaire sphere. And we got into deep conversations, and they started telling me about the things that they're insecure and feel imposter syndrome about. And I wanted to slap them, but then it just made me realize, oh yeah, everybody deals with this.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. This is 100% accurate. Speaking of that, maybe everybody should introduce themselves. So that could be something. Joshua, Pillsbury, You're first because
Why am I first?
because
I feel unqualified to introduce myself right now. Yeah, so what's up, everybody? I'm Joshua. Funny enough, I only been using LinkedIn consistently for like 1 month, but I'm already in this amazing room with all these amazing people. And I also like this conversation is so important to me because for a long time I felt unqualified and still sometimes do feel unqualified. But like what Ariel was saying about imposter syndrome, I suffer a lot from that. But I was just like, you know what? I'm going to do my thing and just really try and do this. And so that's what really has gotten me into what I do now, or what I'm building now is coaching queer men of color. I want to serve my community more. Super important for me. I don't feel like we have enough representation in this space. And so I want to be one of those people that can provide that representation and that service and hopefully change, make a change in my community and in this world. So happy to be here.
I'm so happy you're here. DJ Robb, it's you, man.
So since you introduced me as DJ Robb, I'm on my third career. Career number 1 was DJ, music producer, and music maker. Career number 2 was HR professional, people and culture leader in tech. And career number 3 is now as a coach, working with heart-led, purpose-driven entrepreneurs and really helping them take this desire to want to help other people, to take the shit they've been through and create an actual business out of it. How do you get over the imposter syndrome? How do you actually connect with people, build relationships, do sales in a way that feels authentic so that you can take this desire to make an impact and make something real out of it? And I'm sorry, I realized I swore. We talked about no swearing beforehand.
Bleep it.
Sorry.
Unqualified.
To Ariel, that little thing that you did when we started, would you send that to him as well?
I will.
We need to work on that.
Okay.
Get all that out before we stream. It's fine. Also, I feel like, Robb, you just called me heart-centered and purpose-driven, so that's fine because, you know. Okay. All right.
You have to make up for the swearing.
I
Made up for it.
Yeah.
Made up for it.
John, what do you do with your life?
Who's
I learned
this
that
guy?
you have a real job the other day when we talked.
Do you believe this? I do. No one knows this
I
because
didn't know this.
most people who see me on LinkedIn, first of all, they know me as Jonathan. So I'm kind of going incognito here. Listed as John. Oh, ooh, what's that about? People know me more for my moniker that was complete imposter syndrome because I am not creative at coming up with monikers for myself. But they know me as the career whisperer for young professionals. So what does that mean? It means it's very similar to Robb and Joshua. I work with young folks who are confused about where they're going. And instead of saying, well, make your resume better, blah, 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 interview, all that standard recruiting stuff. I'm like, who are you as a person? And what are you about? And what's the meaning of life and its spiritual journey? And then they're like, I can't believe I paid you for this. And I'm like, I hoodwinked you. So I do that coaching. And but I also work full time for the New York City Tourism Board as a VP of research. What?
I mean, I was shocked when you told me this live.
What? What is that? Who does that?
You're
Sorry.
a VP. What now?
VP? Who? I really mostly just am here for the beer and the fun.
That you bought yourself.
You guys didn't buy. I didn't even get this. No one bought me this.
I love that people work with John though, because they think they're hiring a career coach, but instead they get like a career shaman to like guide them through a spiritual journey.
You are giving away my game here, Jennifer. I'm not cool with it. It's literally, I'm a shaman. I'm like, so I'm looking into your soul, and your soul is telling me this. And they're like, no, I didn't sign up for this. No, no peyote for me.
Is there ayahuasca lying around? Like, what is involved in this?
Oh boy. All right, on to the normal people. Ariel.
But I feel like I'm going to be the least normal one because I can't even say what I do for a living on a recorded stream. So if you don't know me or what I do, I'll be in the comment section. Hope to connect with you. But I also, like John, have a day job. We're not sure if I'm qualified to do that either. But no. But I also on nights and weekends do LinkedIn coaching just because I built the business from my day job as a result of LinkedIn activity. And I would like to say that I'm kind of like Jon. Like, I'm not here to coach you or tell you how to be Ariel Lee. I'm here to help you figure out how to be exactly who you are and how you should show up and all of that good stuff.
I'll drink to that, Ariel.
Cheers.
Yeah, that was like, y'all are all just lovely humans. I just want to just look at you for a second. Okay. Jennifer, it's you.
So I'm Jennifer Brick. I'm your career bestie. I'm the doer of many things. I'm a creator. I help people recover from toxic jobs. I help people advance their careers. I wish that the slogan, I drink and I know things, was still available because it kind of accurately depicts my life.
Wait, it's not available? Who has it?
Oh my gosh, you haven't watched Game of Thrones?
I feel like that's very violent, and I do not process.
You haven't watched Hamilton either, so you're taking like if we're going to be the same person, we need to be on the same page here.
And I can't have that type of negativity in my life.
Well, Hamilton isn't negative. He's a founding father.
It's fine. Just we're not talking about that. We've already had enough fun discussing my countdown.
Some
okay?
drama.
Yeah. Good. Okay.
Clearly, there are underlying issues here that the rest.
There's some things that need to be resolved, right?
So here's the backstory on Snark. I discovered that Chelsea and Kevin have never watched Hamilton, and I found this out on the day that I got like my U.S. citizenship. So like, it was very traumatic because Hamilton very much helped me become an American citizen.
Well,
like 50% of the test I knew because of that musical.
I haven't seen it.
Like good.
I'm gonna just
keep drinking.
Just do it.
I'm sad for Rob and Josh right now.
I'm enjoying the conversation. I love Hamilton's.
I'm in my 8th year of no alcohol, so that's why it's water.
DJ.
you're better.
Exactly.
I got water too, Rob.
Like, DJ, what?
Yeah, I checked that box. I lived the
Yeah,
life.
you're like, I think that happened already.
Yeah.
We're good here.
We're good.
Okay, so since I did the things and made all of you appear in these magic boxes, I am not going to tell people what I do. Rather, you guys do, because I don't have like a fancy headline or a hashtag. I have a hashtag. I'm not like a career bestie or a shaman or like the things that you do. And I'm on a struggle bus to somewhere. So your turn.
The
You ruin
destroyer of lives.
Dismantling
Wow.
Joshua.
It's like the thing you're known for now is just
The
ruining
car wreck
lives.
person.
Just hope she does it in the best way possible for you. If you give her money, she'll do it in a good way. If you don't give her money, she'll do it in a bad way.
I mean,
I
I'd
would
like
say-
to. You're not wrong. And can we put that like on my website?
Can we call you the
Yes.
emotional car wreck lady? You're the one to go to if you've had an emotional car wreck, which is why I texted you last Friday saying, Chelsea, I'm losing my ish. Saying Cruz. And you're like, that's cool. Yeah.
Wait, there's words here. Comment question for Jennifer and Chelsea. Toxic unqualitivity isn't a real problem. Agree?
Let's agree.
Have I had too much wine, or can someone tell me what we're talking? What?
I think it might be a play on the fact that we keep calling ourselves unqualified, and that's toxic.
So we're toxically unqualified.
I want to know why only Jennifer and Chelsey right now.
Because we're the valuable ones, Jon.
I was about to say I'm like left out. It's cool.
Yeah.
I just drink beer.
I mean, I think he's targeting it towards the toxic people on screen.
The people who are being toxic towards each other.
I don't know. Or maybe we're not the toxic ones. So they're like, how are you coping up there?
Yeah, maybe
Oh
that's
my
what it
God.
is. Drew wants to know if he gets to pick the micro-influencer who knows the answer to your question. The answer to that is 1, who's the micro-influencer? And 2, What's the question? And then
what's a micro influencer?
On lives, like I remember Drew every time in the uni awards, he'd be like, so is this just where all the hosts just give each other awards? Like, is that what this is? He's very sassy, but we love you anyway. Thank you for being here.
I'm confused. Okay.
John, a micro-influencer is one of the worst labels that exists, and I was ranting about it when I was on Snark. And my partner and I were talking about it, like, why would you label yourself that? Because we thought about all the ways that micros used poorly, micro penis, micromanager.
I was hoping we would end up there.
Oh, here we go. I was like, all the terrible ways I penis. Okay.
I was waiting. I was like, is he going to say it?
So it's a terrible term because it's talking about your small penis and you don't like
Rob, why are we always having conversations about penises?
I have no idea.
Rob brought it there.
Can we not get it? Let's not go there today.
Oh my goodness. No, but it's like, why would you want to be called a micro influencer ever?
Well, and it's like the most amorphous Stefan ever, because somebody said that to me one time, and I was like, what does that even mean?
Was it an insult? Were they trying to make you feel bad?
Social media platform. So I only know LinkedIn, and I was just like, what is that? So I Googled. It said somebody with 1,000 to 100,000 followers.
That's a big difference.
There's a big difference between 1,000 followers. And
I feel like it's like
100,000.
I refuse the influencer moniker, but the number of people who've called me that, it's hard to.
Well, you're a linked influencer.
I mean, you're a
linked influencer.
Oh, linked influencer.
linked influencer.
Micro Machines. That was a good TV show from like the 90s. I'm sorry. I'm done.
Okay, back to our topic. Now that we all know who we are and what we do, we've kind of discussed what it means to be unqualified. But there was then the people that came back and were like, there's things that you have to be qualified for. So I think prior to the thing, we need to validate the emotions of the people who feel that, yes, there are things that you need to be qualified for. So round robin, what are some things that you have to be, need to be, have the papers to do?
Surgeon.
Heart surgeon, yeah. So
Brain surgeon.
Dentist.
you
Oh,
better have your
yes.
certification if you're going in my
I want
team.
to go into a DDS.
Accountants.
Therapist.
You sure about that?
I mean,
I feel like that one's open for debate.
Jennifer and I talked about this. I don't
Yeah.
know. I'm not sure about therapists.
I'm going to challenge that and just say that, like, if we were living in the 1700s or whatever, surgeons learned the way any of us learned to do anything, where they were mentored and they shadowed and they learned by doing. You know, you didn't start off with brain surgery, but you started off observing. And so I think that the traditional ways that we become qualified could be challenged. But
in fairness, for the ancient doctors, they did think that there were, like, if you were sick, that the solution was to get the blood out of your body.
Just like bloodletting. Yeah, they thought bloodletting was the way to go.
That was a thing. So
Blood.
they may not have
That's
been very
the problem.
qualified, even though they thought they were back in the
Exactly.
1700s.
it's all learning. It's
yes,
all
I mean, experiential learning, I think, is super valuable, like in all of that. And I guess the thing with being qualified as a doctor or something like that is it guarantees that they had quality experiential learning from hopefully a quality person. I guess that would be kind of the caveat of the qualified thing, or so it's the same. It's totally the same. We're all right. I think that's the point. So Jason says, you feel uncomfortable in a room. What's your first action?
Do my chicken impersonation.
Go ahead, do it.
Do it.
Oh, shit, that's good.
Oh my gosh.
He's still going. Wow. Yeah.
That's it. That's the answer to the question.
Okay, next question.
Solutions.
Oh my God, that was more than I could have hoped for.
I was not expecting that.
That needs to go on TikTok, by the way. Somebody
Yeah.
said
If
Right.
someone on Twitch can clip that.
Please
my
take that,
God.
clip it, put it up.
Oh my God.
Chris,
I was
clip
not
it.
prepared. Whew. All right, anybody else? I mean, that's the obvious answer. Let's take a second here answer to that question.
Hide in a corner.
I You can always find at least one or two people that you like highly resonate with. I'm a big
Is
fan
that true?
of magneting. I don't know.
I don't know.
I think me and John are New Yorkers, and we
Anybody
disagree.
here have Jennifer and I talked about this. We have to go to kids' birthday parties, and I don't want to talk to anyone. So I literally hide in a corner, like literally.
Gotcha. No, I can always find at least one person. If I'm feeling uncomfortable or overwhelmed and there's too many people, like I'll just stick to one person either that I already know or that I felt like I would have something more in common with and stick to them until the circle grows.
You're a qualified party goer. That's what
Ariel's like lovable though. Like she's personable. Like I feel like you could have a conversation with anyone.
That's so true.
Which,
what about you and me?
I feel like
no
me
way.
At least it's like no, it's not going to
Maybe
go well.
it's your environment. So maybe it's the New York. I think you hit the nail on the head there because that's the Southern, I guess.
How do you think Ariel would do it at a party in New York, Jennifer?
Probably terrible. But everybody, I would be like a commodity because of my accent.
Everybody would.
A commodity.
Yeah, a commodity for sure.
A lot of people move. Here's the thing with New York is a lot of people move to New York, so it's hard to find an accent that's actually
with Southern accents. I don't hear it that often.
I live in New York.
Do you hear Southern
We're in
accents?
New York too. So we have 3 New Yorkers here.
Oh no, that's ruining the. Oh,
Yeah,
that's terrible.
I've rarely heard a Southern accent though.
Never. I rarely, unless they're in Times Square. No offense, Ariel.
But I
Right,
think
exactly.
also that
And I
New
never
York
go to Times
people,
Square.
like probably think that Southerners are dumb, and justifiably. I mean, as a blanket statement, you're probably not super.
I mean, there is an automatic jump to the
I'm not
unqualified.
dumb, so I think that's part of what makes me a commodity. Like I may sound like I'm a complete hick that has no idea what I'm talking about, but I do have intelligent thoughts sometimes. And I'm a hugger.
Sometimes.
I'm a hugger.
A hugger is good for New York, by the way. There's a lot of huggers.
Really? That,
Yeah,
Yeah, there is.
Here.
It's a hugging's a thing for sure.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, so we got chicken, we got hide in the corner, we got hug somebody.
Hugs.
Well, I demonstrated mine. I just drink until it's okay.
All right, that seems okay. So we're gonna go with Joshua. What are we obviously missing here from the wonderful spread of things?
I just try to spark up conversation because I feel uncomfortable when it's silent. So I'm like, so how are you? How you doing? Like, 'cause I just start to try to begin the conversation.
I don't know, but you have a cool shirt on. See, that helps.
That's true.
Sure, I
Wear
could
a
just stand there
Pillsbury
and just be like-
shirt, and people are just going to talk to you anyway. They're going to be like, this dude's got it going on.
or they're gonna try and poke my stomach.
Woo! That would have been
I
like.
think that's
Notice
why-
how we all groaned. We're like, oh.
I flexed. I tried to pretend I have a 6-pack in that moment.
Good for you, man.
I am unqualified to even pretend to have
No,
a 6-pack at
not
this
even
point.
close.
I mean, my answer is I don't go into a room with people.
Yes.
Done. Done and done. Solved problem. Check.
The
I'll be
simplest
honest,
solutions are
LinkedIn has spoiled me so much. Like I went to an in-person, it wasn't even a networking event, but I was just meeting lots of new people. And I had great conversations, like met a lot of people that I really enjoyed talking to. Could not remember a single name when I left there because it wasn't, like you just get used to LinkedIn. You absorb people's faces and you don't really have to remember their name that specifically. And you can remember their
profile picture. And then you
and so that in real life thing, I was like, oh my God, I have no way to.
You got 2 minutes before you ditch us, Ariel. Just wanted to catch you
That's
down.
Okay. Yeah, I am
Ooh, put
super
you on the
unqualified
spot.
because I committed to this and then forgot to block off my Calendly. So I will be dropping off at 4:30. I love you all.
Okay, well then before you leave, you have to answer this question from Mike. What kind of medicine do you think you'd get if you were bit by a monkey?
Definitely amoxicillin. No question. Just knock out.
Wow, that was
I
quiet.
don't know. Amoxicillin's just like, that's the cure all for
It's an
everything.
antibiotic.
Yeah,
You just throw it at people.
Yeah,
Okay.
some penicillin
Have
at
them
it,
all.
you're good.
exactly. I don't know. Okay, so I'm going to leave in that moment. On that note, I'm going to leave. You guys have fun. I will watch the
Bye.
Bye.
Peace out, yo.
All
right.
Sad.
New Yorkers now outnumber non-New Yorkers.
Oh boy.
John, you're on
Also,
the top
I'm on
now.
the top now.
Well, and Rob's like in
Yes.
the New York of Canada. He's in Toronto. So like Toronto likes to think they're
Thank
like
you.
New York. So like we really
They're
Chelsea,
not at
you're all by
all.
yourself.
Toronto.
Yeah,
New York,
that's
not
another
at all.
story. But basically, Chelsea, you're alone now. I'm sorry.
Wait, why is
Sorry,
Rob on the
sorry.
top now?
I don't know. Rob switched places with me somehow.
Chelsea's trying to like play out.
I'm here.
How's
Equivalent
life
of
on
being in
top?
the middle of a dance circle. You got to dance now.
You want to battle me? Because you know I used to be a professional dancer.
I want to battle you.
No way,
I
really?
wish to battle you.
How do you? Whoa, that's qualified right there.
I mean,
That is legit.
That's legit.
Well,
man.
funny enough is we had this conversation in my chat with Chelsea. Is like I actually quit dancing before I became a professional dancer because I felt unqualified to be a dancer. So it was funny how that worked out because I was like, well, I'm not going to do this anymore because clearly I suck at it and don't have the proper training. And then I was like, well, I'm going to do this as a hobby now. And then I started getting booked for tours and stuff. And I was like, what's happening?
Ooh,
okay,
wow.
so here's the question then. Who
Interesting.
started something as a hobby and then found out that they might be able to do this as a thing?
Well, I think that's what the coaching was for me. I don't know about you guys, but I started out just mentoring young people as interns and meeting them for fun, and then I was like, oh, I can get paid for this. Wow, that's cool. I mean, that's really how it started for me.
Yeah, I can relate to that. I was the go-to person in friends groups and places that I worked, and people came and asked for advice, and I would play that role.
Mhm.
And I always thought like, oh, well, I can't make money doing this. And
Right.
then more people started asking. And then in my day jobs, when I was working in people and culture, I started getting paid to coach the CEO and lead the leadership training and do all this stuff. And I was like, oh, I'm enjoying this and I'm getting paid for it. And apparently they think I'm qualified for this. So there was like these breadcrumbs to work my way towards, I'm actually going to do this and do this fully.
No, I assumed that this career shaman thing that I do is like not anything that anyone would ever want. I never thought in a million years somebody would be like, oh yes, look inside my soul and tell me about me and I'll pay you for the honor. Like never ever thought I would make money for that. I'll pay you for the honor for looking into me. Like really? Like I thought I would have to offer this free my whole life because it's so freaking weird.
I disagree with that being a surprising thing though, because I think most people lack self-awareness, but they want to have awareness. And I think that a lot
I
of
never
people
thought
spend
anybody
a lot of
wanted
money on
it.
different things. No, I feel like a lot of people spend a lot of money on a lot of things in order to figure out who they are. Like, I mean, there's
definitely
people
did.
that spend their entire lives like trying to figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
But I mean,
I
I'm not like
courses.
doing like resumes and like, oh, let's do interview coaching and like,
Yeah.
here's how you network and here's how you set your LinkedIn profile. Like, it's like that's like everybody else on LinkedIn. I'm like
Yeah.
shaman. So yeah, like I
this
never
is
thought
who
that
you
would
are and your
be-
purpose.
Whoa. Hmm.
Now go forth and prosper.
No.
I think that's from Star Trek, isn't it?
I think so.
I have no idea.
So I don't know. Chelsea knows. Game of Thrones expert.
Okay, next question. Jason says, I'm a serviceman. How do I outsell the salespeople?
What does that mean?
What do you
Yeah.
mean? What does it mean? He used words.
So what, you work in the client service, you work in relationships, you work in whatever, they have new fancy names for those kinds of roles, and you want to outsell the salespeople at your company? It's relationships, because long-term real selling, it's relationships, it's building relationships, it's getting to know people and understanding them, it's showing them what is possible by
But-
giving them, yeah.
I guess I asked the question, why do you want to outsell the salespeople?
Mm.
He wants to be on the leaderboard, just like how Chelsea's telling us we've got scores and we're losing right now. He wants to be on that leaderboard.
I mean, isn't there different like metrics for being a good service person versus sales?
There should be.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, I guess we need more context,
Mhm.
Jason.
Yeah.
But like Adrian said, sounds like a limiting belief. That could be part of it.
Mm-hmm.
Do we
Yeah.
believe in limiting beliefs?
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely. Self-sabotage.
Yeah.
Oh, self-sabotage.
limiting
No
belief.
one's going to get in your way more than you'll get in your way. 100%.
BS you tell yourself that isn't not based on anything other than random stuff you've gathered and things people have said to you, and the glass walls you create for yourself, glass ceilings.
Mm-hmm.
Brains love patterns. This thing happened to me once, so it's always the way it's going to be in the future.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, Jen, I'd be interested to hear your response to this. I don't have a job. I just want to kick ass in the interview and keep a job. What would be your, like, 2-sentence response to that?
Oh, man. Know what you want and be confident in AF. That's like really what it comes down to. Like, first of all, like confidence requires clarity. So you have to start with knowing what the thing is that you actually want to do. And too many people that are job searching are like, I just need a job. And then they're like, praying their resume all over the place. And then they're like, why is it not working? And it's because like, you don't know what you have to offer. You don't actually know what you want to do. So how would anyone know that they want to hire you? So figure out the thing that you actually want to do. Like get super clear as possible. Like I want this job title and these are like the 10 companies that I'm hoping to get a job with doing this thing. And then like dig into why you are so perfect for that job and for that opportunity. So I talk about unique awesomeness quotient, UAQ. So it's like, what do you uniquely offer? What are your unique inherent talents that you're bringing into this? And sometimes these are obviously talents that have been developed, but what are the things that you are super exceptional at that if they knew that you did these things, they'd be like, OMFG, I'm throwing bags of money at you. Here's a job offer. Like that's how it actually happens. Like confidence is an escape for like incompetence in your career. Like that's why incompetent leaders exist, is because they're super confident. It bends reality. So I would focus first on clarity, because when you get clear, that's the precursor to confidence. If you don't know what you want, you can't be confident about the thing that you want.
Bam.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's boom, I drop it.
I mean, it's just to piggyback on that. It's ninja skill. It's the opposite of unqualified, right? What's the ninja thing that you can do that a company wants to pay you for? It's like, oh my God, he can do that and no one else. Yeah. Wow, like Jennifer said, we're going to throw bags of money at you because we need that thing, that ninja skill. It's literally opposite of the spray and pray approach that you talked about. It's like, nope, this is my value.
Yeah. And Adrian asked a good like extension question there, like what is the definition of kick ass? So like I was working with a client earlier today and we were having this conversation about success. And so when we go into the week, when he goes into his next week, we talk about like, okay, let's set an action and then what's the definition of success for that? So if you say you're going to call somebody, what does that look like? Does that mean what if they don't answer? You call them 2 times, like then you give up. And then if you call twice and they didn't answer, that's success. Like what does this clear definition of success look like to you? And how can you achieve it? Not just in a kind of a unicorny thing out there somewhere that you can't clearly define. You have to quantify what that success looks like when you can. And so I think that's a good extension question for wanting to kick ass in a job interview is what does that actually look like for you?
Yeah. And I think that's where like a lot of people tend to focus most on their career when they need a job or something's going terribly wrong. They're like, oh my gosh, I'm going to get fired. Or like, oh my gosh, I'm totally stalled out and my boss is discriminating against me and like won't promote me. Until then, everyone's booming along. But actually UAQ, like the thing that gets you the job is the thing that makes you successful in the job as well. So you focus on that thing when you walk in the door, because that's what they hired you for. You sold them on that. You double down, and that's what actually gets you recognition. It's what gets you promotions, and it's what gets you pay increases. So like focus, like stay in that lane. Like again, like Jon said, like precision.
Yeah, and I call it the product of you, right? You're selling a product when you're in an interview, and it was the original title instead of Career Whisperer. I was like, it's product of you. Didn't stick. Failure, unqualified. But you're a product, right? And a product fulfills a need for somebody. It has a benefit, and we're the same way in our careers, right? So what is the product that you're selling to a company that they're going to use, and what are the benefits of that product to them? And then when you get there, you actually are the product instead of the thing that's being sold. So how are you delivering, yourself as that product? And that gives you all the confidence, right? Because you're like, yeah, I'm really confident being this product.
Love hearing this advice, because sometimes I say to people, do not forget that you're also interviewing them. So this 100%. Clarity piece that you were talking about, and knowing what your ninja skills or your uniqueness skills, because if you got that, then you can go in and be confident knowing that You maybe don't take it, and they also
That's
have to
right.
impress you.
Yeah.
That's
yeah,
right.
I think that's a huge piece that I mean, I'm not in the career industry that y'all are in, but I like a friend of mine who's going through interviews for a high paying job with a great company is kind of going through that same thing of what do I need to do to impress them? And I was like, equally, what are you seeking when you're interviewing the interviewer, right? I mean, because you're committing to hang out with these people for 8 hours a day for your foreseeable future. So that's a super relevant thing to get clear as well.
I just got
how
to
you
point
say
out that
respect
Chelsea
yourself.
just unqualified herself with her words. She's like, I'm not in career like the rest of you. I'm like, am I in career? You learned I'm VP of research at the tourism board.
In the career like thing, okay? The thing where you advise people on the career things and the whispering and the bestie. Like I'm sitting
I
next
mean,
to
but we
people,
just
I
are
don't
calling
even
ourselves that, and
care.
we've already
Like,
said we're not
I don't
necessarily
even
any
know
more
how to
qualified.
point at you like that. So in between you people with the things, all right? Jeez.
So -1 for Chelsea on the board is what we're saying.
No.
Chelsea got floored.
No. Mm-mm. What about you, Joshua? Like, what is your thought on that? Your real job is in HR, right?
Yeah, I was actually going to
Real
chime
job.
in. I do, yeah. My real job, right? My 9 to 5. Yeah, so I actually do recruiting. I do a lot of recruiting, and I completely agree in that. And I always tell, like, I'm such an I think I annoy my hiring manager sometimes because I'm such an advocate for the candidates. So I'm like, I'm always, because also my experience as a candidate, like I remember like being ghosted by jobs or being felt like I had to impress them, and even making myself feel that way where I'm like, oh, like let me not say the wrong thing. Oh, and you know what I used to do actually, and I'm ashamed. I used to be ashamed of this. Was I was too scared to ask about their DEI initiatives because I was scared that they would think that I was a problem. I would be a problem in their company. And so.
Sense.
Yeah, and and also being being queer and being Black, it's like you're already feeling like, oh, like there's already a blocker there, like I might not get in for this or I might not get in for that. I work in tech now, right? Like I'm part of a food tech company, and a lot of people from my community don't get that opportunity, and we have to fight really hard. So we face a lot of those blockers, and so I used to really be scared to ask these types of questions, and so now I'm on the other side, and I'm like, oh, I remember that. I remember being on your side. So first thing, like when I get in an interview, the first thing I always tell the candidate, I'm like, how are you really feeling right now? I don't want you to feel like you have to feel pressured. I don't want you to feel like you have to feel nervous. I want you to feel comfortable in your own skin, because I want to see you as a person, not as this fake like resume, like you're just reading yourself, trying to sell yourself to this job. Like I want to know who you are truly, because as you said, Chelsea, I think you just said it, we're spending 8 hours a day with these people, right? With each other. And so being able to know how that the company is going to treat you is just as important as the work that you're going to do for the company. It's a two-way street. And so I really believe in that. And I always try and encourage candidates to really tell me or ask me questions, like deep questions, like what do you really want to know about us? Like how are we doing as a company? Who are we? How are we supporting our employees? And especially with society today and what's happening in mainstream society, are the companies that you're joining, are they actively doing the things that they're posting on Instagram or posting on LinkedIn or having on their landing page on their website? Like, is it just performative, or are they really doing that stuff? Like, ask these questions, So sorry, I just went off, but
oh no, like I like low-key want to do an audit on all the companies that put up their Black squares and have made 0 to negative progress in the past year.
1,000%.
For real.
Or even with Pride Month too. Like Pride Month just ended. Like how many
Right.
companies had a rainbow flag on their logo? And then like what are they doing for for the queer community? What are they doing for LGBTQ plus people? Like where is the money? And this is what I always say, and I always talk about this when DEI is brought up in any company that I work at. I'm like, what's the budget? Like, I don't care about, yes, we're doing DEI stuff. No, first thing I want to know is where is the money? Because you can talk about like, yes, we're going to do this. And yes, we have this ERG and blah, blah, blah. Okay, where's the money? That's what I need to know, because unless you're willing to really invest in this and do the work, whatever you have to say does not matter to me. I don't care.
Yeah.
I love you.
No, it's great. It's really great. There's too much tokenism with it, right?
Yeah.
Like I support this, but you don't really. It's like
Yeah. I think you still expect people to, like, back to what you were saying, Joshua, that with any type of difference, neurodiversity or sexual orientation, or really anything that you feel makes you different from the people around you, instead of viewing it as this quality or commodity that you have, you're viewing it as a hindrance. And so often you're making yourself smaller to fit inside of something that somebody else created. You're making yourself quieter, smaller, different, and before you know it, you get the job, but to what avail? Right now you have this job that doesn't fit you because you were someone else when you took the job or were offered the position. And then you have this imbalance. But a lot of what I am always talking about in education, the education space, is creating a psychologically safe environment where people can come in and be who they are and share who they are, and what does that look like, and what are the actual action steps that we are creating around that type of environment. And I think
is that realistic in corporate America? I'm going to throw it out there. I'm the bomb thrower. Hi.
No, totally, because that's a lot of what like Joshua is saying about DEI and like what you're spending your money on and what you're presenting versus what you're doing, your mission versus your action, is about creating a space where others can share who they are. And if you are out there representing Pride Month with your flag and doing all of your things, but people inside of your company who may be queer can't openly speak about who they are, you don't have a psychologically safe environment. You're representing one thing and doing another, and closing that gap is really what creates a space for.
Yeah, but I mean, sorry, I'm going to throw. If we're going to let's be devil's advocate here. Is there any company on earth that really wants you to come in and be your full self and be your actual self when you go there? And particularly for folks like you said who are neurodivergent or queer or people of color, like that goes doubly so, right? So like there's already a corporate culture wherever you work that you have to fit within, and then it's double that for somebody who like comes from a group that's marginalized. I don't know if I see what you're saying as realistic.
I agree. And so that's why I wouldn't go after it from that point. So I'm not saying we fix corporate America and then they have to come back and do it. Right.
Well, we can try.
Yeah.
None of us really fit in. That's why we're here hanging out with each other. Hey!
But I think it's about empowering the person who has to go into that space. So like if in the same thing in education, I can't change the system from the top down, but I can empower the learner from the bottom up. And so that is really my thought process on all of this, is how do we empower the people going into this pre-created system to make those slight changes and have those conversations and be able to walk into that saying, I have ADHD and anxiety, but I'm here, this is how I show up, and being able to kind of just own that.
Yeah, you're going to be seen as a liability, no? I mean, they're going to go straight to HR and like, how do we deal with this ADHD person?
Yeah,
should we even hire them? Is it too much of a liability? Are they going to cost us something, right? This is the lovely, wonderfully, emotionally in tuned world of HR.
I agree. And that is the problem. And it's not for everyone. Not everybody who has ADHD and anxiety is going to walk in and say, I have ADHD and anxiety, and that's fine. But if I walk in and say, I have ADHD and anxiety, then maybe I can burn some shit down for the next person who has to come behind me with ADHD and anxiety. I mean, like, that is my thought on that for me personally, but it's not for everyone. Not everyone needs to go in there and burn things down.
Yeah, I think like there's a matter of boundaries, like of work, of like personal boundaries, because like I think a lot of things are coming into work and we're like expecting like corporate activism and all of these things. Like I think we should expect like corporations and people that work in them to be good human beings who aren't assholes. Sorry, Chelsea. Snuck out.
Oh no.
You led, Rob. We're actually even. But Here's the thing. So, but I think that there's too much of like, I don't think that like your whole self necessarily belongs at work. Like, I don't want to have political conversations at work. I don't want to talk about my religious ideologies. I don't want to argue with you about yours because, like, I mean, just in general in life, I'm not super interested in debating those topics. You just don't move the needle. But I think that there's just been like this kind of hysteria and there's so much division and so much disagreement that people get mad when you don't agree based on the same path to agreement. And like, so I think that there is also an element of like, bring yourself to work. Like, you should be accepted for being whoever you are at work. But I don't know if the right goal post is being set right now in the general dialogue, especially like coming from tech. Like, tech was like, there's so much corporate activism or the push for corporate activism by tech employees. And it's like, are you fighting for the right things? Because I think like doing like things like DEI initiatives, absolutely. We need to have more diversity and perspective, and we can't just keep on building tools for white dudes. But I don't know, like, I don't like.
I'm so triggered right now. So triggered.
No, you're not.
Of course I'm not.
But like, this is for me, like, but honestly, and this is for me, like the question that I have in terms of like, when I'm working with clients or if I'm working with the company, like, what are the actual lines? Because the lines are completely individual. Because I'm totally happy to walk in a room and tell you about my depression, my anxiety, and all of these things, because I'm very comfortable with it, but like other people aren't. And also, when I tell people these things, they have reactions like Jon said.
I think, like, I agree with what Jon said earlier. It's like, we can't change the corporate world. Like, it's right now, I mean, maybe one day, a million years from now, I don't know when in our lifetime, maybe it will, you know.
Optimistic of you, Joshua.
Yeah, you know, maybe it will happen. I don't think that we can do it right now, but I think that we're on the right path. And for me, it's not so my expectation is not for you to have it figured out and perfect right now. And I think this also goes back to our conversation about being unqualified, right? I don't expect for our company to be perfect and doing the right thing all the damn time when it comes to DEI initiatives or any of like inclusivity, et cetera, right? But it's about the progress. Are you aware of what's happening, and are you intentionally trying to do something about it? You know, you're gonna mess up, just like we're gonna mess up as coaches. We're gonna mess up in our careers every day. Whatever. That's how we learn. And and the fact that if we can be open to that, open-minded and aware of that, that is what's gonna move the needle forward, or move the needle side to side. However, which way is it going? I don't know.
I have an interesting perspective on this. So I wrote about it on.
I'm shocked, Jon.
I worked at a company that clearly had the best diversity, equity, and inclusion initiative of all time, and they never made you take a course. And it was a company called Black Entertainment Television. Shocker, right? Wow, diversity, equity, and inclusion was baked into what the company was all about. It was like, wow, what a fancy notion, and it's because, well, it's in the name, right? That's the point I'm trying to make. So Joshua, if you were to go work at, I don't know, Out Magazine, right? That culture would be ingrained as DEI without having to teach you what DEI is. These are the ways that folks like myself who are not Black can learn about the Black experience or the other experience and build in that empathy in a way that you are changing the needle for someone like me who hasn't experienced that. That's how you do it. You put people into a situation where they're so used to being the majority white dude like myself, and all of a sudden you're thrown in with a completely different culture, and there you go. There's your diversity training.
Yeah.
I like that, and I think that's why it's so important.
And I hope you didn't take offense by me saying Out Magazine. It was like the first thing that came to my mind. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. But I actually like that, and I agree. And that's also why I think it's so important to have some like inclusivity of all different types of people at work, because when you're exposed to these things, questions get raised. Curiosity pops up in your mind, and then conversation. Like yesterday, we had at work, we had a dinner together with my HR team, and we talked about. I was talking about the queer community, what it means to be masculine, what it means to be feminine, and a colleague of mine was like, "Oh wow, like I never heard of this. Like I never had this type of conversation. This is so interesting. That's right. Wow." You know, and I was like, I love that, because I'm now opening your mind and planting a seed for you to be more curious and learn about what experience I have. And I think you're right in that, putting the person in that environment and allowing them to see how we live as people, who we are as people, who we are as humans, and learning from that.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the reasons that like New York City, for all its crap, is literally one of the most diverse and tolerant places in the world, because you have to be. You are around people who are not you everywhere, and if you don't adjust to that and figure out, well, okay, wow, this is a lot to take in. I guess the only thing we have in common is that we're New Yorkers. Like, that's a shared experience. All of a sudden, you're like, okay, yeah, I guess I'm forced to be tolerant.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And I think part of like what we were talking about initially was, how do we shift the culture so that we can be ourselves? But do we really need to bring our full selves to work, or are there parts of it that don't? And like all of those conversations. And I think Jen and I were kind of having this conversation in the comments, is really what we're kind of going for is mutual respect and empathy. Like if you have those things, those other pieces become how we're going to change it and when we're going to change it, and those types of things become a little less pressing, because we're coming into it with that mindset of mutual respect and empathy, and that seems to set the baseline for everything that's going to happen after that, and the rest of it just becomes arguing points that are less important.
Yeah, no, I think like the thing that gets to me right now is that like we talked about failing, and like the fact that people don't get it right, organizations don't get it right, but also like, and then like I mentioned like the whole like I agree but not in the same way, like so everyone has to agree and no one's allowed to mess up, and that's fostering like to me a really toxic culture, because like that means that everyone has to be exactly the same as we're having this big conversational push for DEI and for diversity and for acceptance. And it is so counterintuitive to me, because like ultimately, like, do I have to agree with you? No, but I do need, in my opinion, and this like, if more people did this, even when it's not easy, the world would be a better place, is like, listen to try to understand, not to agree, not to convince, not to persuade, but just to understand. You might learn something along the way.
Yeah. And you might actually, sorry. Yeah. This kind of brings me to this conversation of like coaching, right? Because we're all here as unqualified coaches, right? And we're talking also about DEI. And I mentioned earlier when we began this conversation, I didn't have the representation I didn't see myself as a coach. I've mentioned this to Rob and to Chelsea. I didn't see myself as a coach. I didn't have the opportunity. I didn't have the money to get a certification in the first place. Like that stuff costs $12,000 to $15,000. Who has that, you know? And I mean, I don't know if y'all have that, but like where I come from, I don't have that. You know, I didn't grow up with that. Like I couldn't just pull that out of my pocket. And so, but going back to DEI, is like, when you mentioned Jennifer, it's like, if we all have the same idea of what we think a coach should be, do we all really need to be qualified? What if somebody didn't have the opportunity to be qualified with a certification, but they still have the experience to help somebody along that they relate to, or they have the same experiences, or they come from the same community? What if that qualifies them? And I think that that's where I strongly speak for that, because I'm not certified. I don't have a certification, but you know what? I can speak to my community, to other people that are gay, to other people that are Black, because we have gone through the same things as a people, as a community. And so when I can speak that to my clients, they're going to feel much more better to speak to me and learn from me and work with me, because I relate to them, not because I have a piece of paper that says I have this many hours of coaching. Like, no.
Oh my God, I like just yes to all of that. And who was it that I had the conversation on equity with? Was it you, Joshua? We talked about like the equity of getting these qualifications, right? Because at some point, if you're going to get a master's in something, or they cost money. And if you don't have money, then this is a hindrance for you. So if you're viewing it in the very black and white, qualified versus unqualified, and if I'm unqualified, then I can't do it. You have the thing where you don't have representation of your community in this space, and you don't do it because you don't have the qualifications. I mean, think of the people that could be amazing at all of these wonderful things, but they're not, for those two reasons. They don't feel qualified for whatever reason, and they don't have representation of other people similar to them doing it. Like, how much cooler of a world we would have if people went after these types of things You know,
But also, how much more people could we help in this world if other people were allowed to have up to be a coach even without some said certification?
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
How many Black people are out there? How many Black men don't go to therapy because they don't feel that they can, because they don't have that representation, or it's just not something that is talked about in our community, but also because we don't see it happening and we don't see ourselves having that opportunity. So how many people of my people are being held back from these opportunities, from getting help or being able to provide help just because of a qualification, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, who here has a qualification on the screen, people? John and I just like had a rant about this at lunch the other day.
Yeah, because as a coach, I'm not allowed to give advice. So I don't know about that.
I mean, I have a degree in child development. It's kind of like coaching.
Yeah.
If I can
I'm a high
develop
school dropout that got my GED.
It's pretty much a
There you go.
certification, right?
Yeah.
I don't have a formal certificate. I've been coaching since I was 14. I started with softball, and I coached softball for a decade. And then I coached people. Not always paid, like similar past to what John and Rob said earlier, like starting with friends, and then it was people that you work with, and then it became like, oh, this is the thing I want to do. I think certifications can be helpful for some. I don't think that they're right for all, because I think that coaching is so stylistic. And like, this is even like as someone who works with coaches, like finding the right fit coaches for me is super difficult.
Yeah.
Because I'm a very peculiar type of person, because I'm high self-awareness. I'm very abrupt. I get angry if I'm not getting what I need, or if you're not listening to me or not understanding me. But I'm also a very concise communicator, so I'm not always good at telling you what I actually need. So I need people that can work with that.
I'm really scared of you right now.
Specific amount. No, but it's a very specific amount of people. Like, no, like, I mean, and like I have zero, like there's a lot of things that people will typically struggle with that I seek help, like that are in the ballpark of things that I need. And it's like, no, like I'm good there. I don't need, like, you don't need to talk to me about boundaries. I'm the queen of boundaries. So please stop bringing it up. Like, I'm like, so yeah, it's like, so for me, like, I generally don't work with coaches that have formal certifications, because their approach is usually very formal, and I'm a very informal person.
Yeah, I mean, formal brings formal. Like, I think that there's definitely tied into that, right?
Yeah.
I don't know, Rob, you've been super quiet. I feel like you have opinions.
I stirred this pot a whole lot last fall and earlier this year, and I had a couple posts, and I even hosted a room on Clubhouse about it, where like 40 or 50 people came through. Adrian, who's been really super active in the chat, he was there, and it was a mixed panel of people who had done the certification and jumped through hoops. A couple of people had like done a bunch of the courses but didn't get the final thing to send in their calls, and then several others didn't have the certification. So yeah, one of the questions I asked everyone there is, have you ever had a client ask you if you have a coaching certification? Not one single person, not one single coach could say that was the case.
But they do ask whether you've worked with people like them.
Yes.
To Joshua's point, right?
And if you're working in corporate, if you're going to do coaching internally, those kinds of places will ask for it. But exactly, like you said, John, like people, they get me. I can relate with them. I understand them. We share some values. They know the kind of shit I've been through. Oh, yeah. Darn, I swore again.
I had one person.
Where's the -1?
I had one person who was considering working with me. I had one person who was considering working with me, or considering applying to work with me one-on-one, and they asked if I had a coaching certification. That was it.
And did they?
I'm like nope. If that's a problem, then you should.
They just have a thing that they need solved, and they will come to you because they want it solved.
They
did not put it. They didn't put an application.
So that's a filter, right? Because y'all probably wouldn't have gelled anyway.
Anyways,
no,
yeah, like
no.
you said,
I was literally like, if that's a problem, don't apply.
Yeah.
Adrian's commenting because he was in that. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was giving Jenny a hard time. Your turn.
All right. Adrian's commenting because he was in that room, and parts of it got heated, especially near the end. Someone jumped on who had very, very strong opinions about you should absolutely have a certification and it's wrong. And she was very articulate and said things that made a lot of sense. And the middle ground, or that we agreed on, that I agreed on with her, and I think everyone said the same thing, is that just continuing to learn, continuing to better yourself, continuing to improve, and being committed to continue to improve yourself, your skills, your toolbox, regardless, was the most important piece, certification or not.
Can I jump onto that?
I was gonna do the same thing, but you can go first.
No, go for it. Go for it.
No, I was just gonna say really quickly. You bring up such a good point, Rob, because okay, so when you get a certification, what happens after that? Are you done learning? Like, do you stop gaining more tools? Because if that's the case, then I don't want a certification. Because if I need to, in order to help my clients, in order to help people in general, I need to make sure that I'm continuing to learn myself, in order to best help those that are coming to me. So. Yeah, that's all I want to say.
Does it improve your character or your ability to listen or your empathy levels? Go ahead, Jen.
Yeah, well, and if you go through ICF, there's like ladders, so you just continue getting more certifications and paying more and more money, and it gets more and more expensive. So like there's that. But it's, again, it's interesting because we have this conversation as though there's a singular correct answer when it's an individual answer. Yeah. So she's like coming in and imposing her paradigm onto a whole bunch of people and saying, no, you're wrong. Coaches have to have certification. Don't work with people who don't have a certification. When in reality, the truth is, she needs a certification. It's important to her. It's important for her and the coaches that she works with. And it's important for the people who work with her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's not everyone. Like, let's stop again, like get away from the singular solutions. Mm-hmm. If you want a coach with a certification, that is awesome. Find a coach with a certification. If you don't give an F, then work with whatever coach you like jam with. Like, try like, and if you're working with multiple coaches, try out different ones, because that's how you find your style. And I feel like, especially if you are a coach, the more different coaches you work with actually helps you as a coach. So you're like, I like this, I don't like this I can adopt, this I can adapt, this I never wanted to.
What I will say too is that I want people to know that this is not an attack on certifications either.
Yeah.
If you feel like you want to, and Adrian mentioned it too, and I also want to give a shout out to Adrian because I don't know how to message on this thing. I think I messaged the private chat on accident, but thank you for what you said earlier, Adrian. But to Adrian's point, he got a certification for a specific reason. And that goes back to what you said, Jennifer. It's like, it's specific to you. And so if you want a certification, yes, go get that. That's also like, I also talk about, I don't have a college degree. I didn't have the opportunity to go to college, but I also didn't think that it was for me. But I also do believe in that knowledge is power. And I think that getting specific type of education is really cool and important for specific things. And so I'm not saying, yes, you don't need a college degree, like whatever, that's just a piece of paper. No, I'm just saying, like, for me, that's not what I needed. And also here for the certification in this moment in my life, I don't feel that I need that. Will I want it later on down the line? Who knows? I'm a different person 5 minutes, 5 days, 5 years from now, so it's like, you just don't know. And I think that exactly what you said, Jennifer, is like, it's specific to you. What are you trying to do with your life and your coaching and your clients? When you lay that out and you get that clarity, then you're going to decide whether or not you want that certification.
How much is getting the certification for yourself so that you feel like you're qualified, right? So are you doing it not necessarily for learning, but because you're like, yes, I have a piece of paper and some letters after my name that says I'm qualified, right? Because I'm talking about the emotional feeling that I get even with this conversation is, well, those coaches probably think that they're just so much better than the other people who don't have coaches, coaching degrees, right? And so that's why they put those letters. They're like, well, I have the letters and I know the right coaching. And so they're going to talk like that. And then I'm going to be like, okay, but I have all the clients. So like, I don't know. Like, do I have to, who's winning? I'm just sitting here like, it's like, I know I solve problems for my clients. They keep coming back. They keep referring people. So I guess I don't need the letters. I don't know what they would do for me. It's not to say that somehow they're learning something, but I feel like it's for them so that they can say to themselves, look at me. It's just like going to Harvard and getting an MBA. I have a Harvard MBA.
Can I feed my drama llama for a minute though? Because there's literally been.
Oh no.
There's literally you know that I don't name and I don't shame, but there has been a career coach who, when she got her certification, which again, like if you want a certification and it makes you happy, like that is awesome. I will be the first one to
do it. Do it for yourself. Yeah.
Okay, she literally put up this huge post about how basically like like certification meant that she was like not a BS coach, like basically, and she like integrated it into her marketing. Like, don't work with these people who have no idea what they're doing and have no certifications. And it's like, but does the certification really mean that you know what you're doing? Really?
Yeah, I mean, like, I think my question with that. So
I'm sorry. I actually take offense to that.
You got offended?
Told you, like drama llama, like
Okay.
I had to do it.
I have a question.
No, that's not cool though. I don't think you should go poo poo on other people just because you got something.
This leads into my question. I have a question.
Okay, well, Jon set it up for you.
I'm waiting.
Sorry, I was ranting.
I know, but I have a question that feeds into your rant. Okay, so I read this thing, or I saw this comedy thing that said alcohol, you know, like when you're drunk, when you drink a lot of alcohol, it makes you more. Whoa.
It makes you whore.
It makes you whore.
Rob, what do you have to say about that one?
-3.
Different conversation. We're not going down that road, okay? Don't you hold that posted up, Rob. Don't you do it. Listen, okay. All right. So the theory was, you know, alcohol doesn't always just make you this fun, silly person. It makes you more of who you already are. So if you're an asshole before you start drinking, you'll be more of an asshole once you drink, and y'all started it. So it's -5. It's fine. So that's all right with your Post-it notes. I'm just gonna hang on. Hold, please. Okay.
Oh. Ouch. Okay, back to alcohol.
Okay. Back to alcohol. So my question is this, right? We have already identified some of the qualities of a coach that we would want to work with. Do they represent the things that you want? Can they listen to you? Are they empathetic when they're are they empathetic? Do they share some of your values? Can they solve the specific problem that you have? Do they know how to work with you? Like, these are the things that you're looking for, certification or not. But my question is this. Let's say the certification is the alcohol. And if you're an asshole before you got the certification, you're going to be an asshole after you got the certification. I mean, these are my things. Does the certification make you more empathetic, more of an active listener, more able to solve that problem, increase your character in a positive way? It could, but I'm just thinking, like, who you are is not going to change with or without. So I think the focus needs to be who you are and how you engage with others and the space that you create for the people you work with. And then if you have a certification or don't, cool. But
I will defend certification for one thing, which is the number of practice hours that they make you do to become certified, right? Because I wrote a post about this, and I'm not, you know, when I started out as a coach, I was not good, right? And I think we all felt that way. Like, I really wasn't. Like, I had clients like, I'm done with you after one session. I'm like, I'm so offended it hurt. But the more times I was servicing and doing the same thing over and over and seeing different types of clients and then starting to see patterns with certain clients coming back with the same thing, I'm just like, those hours that I put in, it's like mastery of anything, right? It really, really helps me feel like I am not unqualified, like double negative, right? So that's, I think, like, if it forces you to do the coaching and to come out of it having done that, that's a positive, right? And it does speak to saying that, okay, well, you know, but I don't know about methodologies or teaching or anything like that. Like you said, a lot of the characteristics that you said, Chelsea, I think are ingrained in who you are and the way you approach life and the work you've done on yourself, not necessarily done through learning in a classroom.
Yeah, but the classroom learning could be an accelerator to that change, and it could be. But I just think the idea of you're one person prior to the certification and a different person the very next day with those letters is not, you know, that. And like Adrian disagrees, which is completely valid. Like, I totally respect that. But that's my thing, is a lot of times I see, and it's not even certifications, it's anything, any qualification. Back to the whole theory of qualified versus unqualified, right? It really, if it comes down to it, it's about who you are and what you're willing to be inside of whatever you choose to do. And that is not going to be changed overnight by any type of qualification.
So I have one thought on that. Like, obviously I think, like, by default, and like, I am by default an empath. So like, empathy isn't something that I necessarily have to try really hard for. But one of the most helpful things that I did was one of the courses that I took in university with my criminology degree, which if you want to hear me rant about criminology, I'll shamelessly plug that I'll be on with Chris and Nathan on Tuesday talking about ending the stigma. Anyways, I took restorative justice. Like, it was really big at my university, and I gained an immense amount of listening, understanding, and like learning the power of listening as a healing tool in studying restorative justice that I would not have. I'm sure I eventually would have gotten there through experience, but taking courses was like a complete accelerator in that. And like, we had like weekly, like our tutorial classes were like literally healing circles and like staging victim event remediation and things like that. So like, there's no way that I would have gotten that experience outside of that. And I think like in certain regards, there's nothing that I could have duplicated without that formal structure. So like, I definitely think that those elements can play a role. So like, would that class take someone who was not empathetic and turn them into an empath? I can assure you it did not. Because we had those people like, you know, the future cops of Canada in the class. No offense to the Mounties, but there was definitely people that are just like, oh, this is all BS. We're like 75% of us were like, oh my gosh, let's just hug. Like, so like, I think, but I do think that even with the people that weren't hugging it out after class and weren't feeling super connected, I do think that it impacted their ability to communicate. So maybe in that regard, and again, I haven't taken a formal coaching class, but I can see that it would probably train skills like this. And I think that approaching it in a formal way in order to acquire those skills would be helpful.
That makes a lot of sense. And to me, the same thing when John was talking earlier about the good thing about the certifications is it forces people to get X amount of hours in. So you just get reps in, And it's, I think of these times when I was working in jobs and we'd hire someone out of school, and the difference between someone who had completed a degree or had an MBA or whatever, and if they had done internships, if they had done stuff with their summer where they were on site somewhere, eating shit, learning, like hands-on, versus someone who just did the schoolwork and got the thing framed on the wall. 90-day difference.
Yeah.
Yep. Totally.
Yeah. There's too many variables, I think, to hold it to like one black and white standard. Sorry, Joshua, I think I cut you off.
Yeah, no, it's sorry.
No.
No, I was just gonna go back to real quick to something that John had said was like, are you getting the qualification for yourself or for someone else? And I was that person that was like, oh, I need a qualification in order for people to see me as a real coach. So my qualification, I wanted to get it or my certification, I wanted to get it because I wanted to be seen from other people that I could do what I wanted to do. But that also brings me to the point of like, so just because you have that qualification or that certification, there's that quote that says like, people often ask like, how do you build a business or how do you do something? How do you learn how to do something? You just do it, right? And so when you get that certification, just because you have that certification, are you still doing the job? Are you still doing the coaching? Are you taking the steps to do that? And I didn't feel like I was going to be able to do that regardless if I had the certification or not. And so I came to a point where I was like, well, I just want to do this thing and I'm going to learn how to do it. And I want to take that step. So I'm just going to push myself out there. And so I think like a lot of people, for myself, is I was not doing what I truly wanted to do because I felt like I needed this certification. So I think I got a little lost and excited. But what I'm trying to say is that people shouldn't feel that they need the certification in order to do the thing that they want to do, in order to do the coaching, right? To do this type of work. You know, we did talk about certain jobs that you do need some kind of degree or certification, but I think to do this type of work, depending on who you want to work with and stuff like that, just start to do it and learn it and put in the hours. Just like Rob just said, like, are you taking your summers to do internships and stuff like, or whatever? Like, what are you doing in between your time to really learn about this and be able to do it regardless if you have that certification or not? So that was my little piece.
I agree. I love your rants. So like Jason asked as an empath, so I guess like Jenny, who do we go to when we've taken too much?
Too much what?
Too much
too much other people's pain.
Yeah.
I mean, please tell me when you find the answer.
Therapist.
You go into your closet with a bottle of vodka and hope for the best. No, I think
you
like
lock yourself in a closet. I like that.
It's like I need a dark room. So I'm energetically very sensitive. So there's a lot of like protectionary precautions that you need to take. I think like mindfulness is very important. Energy management is extraordinarily crucial, especially if you are.
That's the hardest, isn't it, though, Jenny?
Oh gosh, John, we can go on for.
Yeah,
I mean, we chatted this the other day too.
Yeah,
it's like
energy management is the hardest. For sure.
Yeah, it's huge. And like, I mean, you can't like, I'm not someone who can control whether or not I take on your stuff. Like it just, I'm a sponge. It's very unfortunate. But yeah, I mean, you have to like, and for me, the challenge is always like differentiating between my stuff and other people's stuff. So like, is this my feeling or is it someone else's feeling? And like, that's something that I am still learning to differentiate. But doing things like grounding and meditation are very, very helpful practices for me.
I agree to all that.
Yeah.
So back to the other topic, we were talking about the work stuff. Where were we when this question popped up?
I don't know.
Right.
This is the hard part.
Old. I think this was 30 minutes ago.
Well, this was
a different chat.
It wasn't that long ago.
It was
What I will say is I think I know what this question is. I don't know. I'm just going to assume. But yes, this is also a conversation. If we're going back to the DEI initiatives really quickly, this is a conversation that also needs to be had with hiring managers, because this is why I advocate a lot for candidates, because I feel like just because I'm pushing them through doesn't mean that the hiring manager is going to push them through. And I think there's that block of, we talk a lot about bias. We talk a lot about unconscious bias and unconscious bias training and all of this stuff. So yeah, definitely. That was about sort of.
I understand. Yeah. Dan's question makes a lot more sense. I think he's right. I think it is for hiring managers. Like, I have like, if somebody sees, you got a master's in my field, that's not coaching. If you see that somebody's got a master's degree in analytics, it does sort of signal a certain level of comfortableness with certain analytics tools. So as a hiring manager in my field, for sure, like I do take that seriously.
Can I tell you guys a funny story? More drama? No, okay.
Yes.
I promise it's not. But when I met Chelsea, like when I got to be the first guest to be Unqualified, and I put up a poll asking about what is qualification? Like, is it education? Is it experience? Is it like, I don't know what? But it was very funny because someone commented and they're like, no, it's definitely education. So I'm like, okay, so my criminology degree did not prepare me to become a tech executive. He's like, no, unfortunately, you cannot be a tech executive with a criminology degree. I'm like, oh shit. Sorry, Chelsea. Minus like you do.
Oh.
But I'm like, I was a tech executive. So this is the loaded thing with education with me is like, like having a business degree or an analytics degree or is like a software engineering degree. These are all helpful things, but like, they're not always requirements.
No, it's not a requirement, but it does signal to me that you have a certain level of comfortableness, right, with data. That's all it says to me. It's a baseline. It's like, okay, you're not coming from a zero data background. You're coming from having to have worked with this significantly in a lot of ways. Yeah. And if I'm looking to hire somebody technical, that's going to signal to me, just like any sort of STEM degree, right? I have a bachelor's in mechanical engineering. I don't. But if somebody did, they have a bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering, you'd be like, that signals to me that you're comfortable at least with the discipline of mechanical engineering in some way.
And that they're not going to like freak out if they have to write like a VLOOKUP in Excel or use SPSS or like some data.
Exactly. Like they're going to be really comfortable using those tools. And that I need to know that because like I'm the fake analytics, talk about being unqualified and imposter syndrome. I hire the people who know how to use these tools to work for me because what I do is schmooze and, sell.
All right.
I have a hot date in a few minutes, so I have to go.
Oh, how dare you.
Sorry. It's been lovely to be here.
Thanks for hanging out with us, Rob.
Thanks for having me.
Now, who's going to keep count of the curses, though?
I don't know.
That is on you, Josh.
Oh, okay. Peace out.
Have Post-it notes. Where are your Post-it notes?
I'll do them.
I only have Post-it notes that have writing on them.
No, well.
Well, we only
Oh,
have like
wait.
7 minutes left anyways, right?
Oh,
yeah,
wait.
we only have 7 minutes left. But I think,
do.
okay, so this question that Dan asked about what we were talking about earlier, I think brings us back to the conversation that we were having prior, like 27 conversations ago, because we're not really looking, for me, I'm not, so let me speak to me in education. I'm not looking to overnight change the education system. I'm going to do what I can to make those changes happen over time, but that's my long-term goal, is that however long from now, there will be enough small changes that we've gotten to a place where we no longer have the same issues that we have now, okay? Or the same issues we had 100 years ago, because we have those same issues, it's fine. Rather, empowering the learners to be able to get one step closer and pave the way. So in this case of shouldn't getting closer to doesn't, is that same thing for me, right? We, at this point, we can only have the shouldn't conversation, because there's no, even if there was like a written policy in place, decide what doesn't happen, you know, there's not always getting there. To me, it's the mindset of the people and that mutual respect and empathy that has to be shifted over time, not necessarily the policies. So I don't see that there is more value in the, well, okay, that could be taken different ways, but in this context, saying it doesn't happen in the sense of there's a policy around it does not seem more valuable to me than saying it shouldn't happen. I lost my train somewhere. Can anybody tell me what I was saying? Because it made, I was discussing.
I think, so I started with the understanding that you were talking about incremental progress, that in order to get to the doesn't, you have to start with the shouldn't.
There we go. See?
Is that the TLDR?
That, yeah.
Same person. Same
Stop
person.
Good job.
Wait,
So
can I just be honest about something and say that I don't know what TLDR means?
Too long didn't read.
Okay.
So unqualified.
Right.
I'm sorry, I can't talk to you anymore.
How can you internet
Just
without
get rid of me.
TLDR?
Oh my goodness.
I'm like, what does that mean?
You don't even know how to. You don't know how to.
You know what's so funny? It's like I
I'm
can
shaming
easily
you
just
right
look it up
now.
on Google and I just choose not to. I'm like, let me just, I'm being vulnerable now.
How about LOL? Do you know LOL?
Lols. Lols.
Yes, I know LOL.
I feel like this is a quality time to, no, maybe not. Never mind, Joshua. I won't pull you into that conversation. So what have we not covered in regard to qualified versus unqualified? We've had very giant conversations. If we take it all the way down back to like the baseline of what does it mean to be qualified versus unqualified, and what's the value of each, like what's the, elevator pitch for that?
One thing we didn't cover that you and I talked a lot about, Chelsea, is qualified and unqualified could be, it's this matrix, right? This internally, do I feel qualified? And then externally, do people view me as qualified, right? So you have sort of these different buckets. We didn't really get on that as to a little bit when I said we did actually get at it. We just didn't hit it right on the nail, but this idea that certain people will view you as qualified with certain types of characteristics, whereas others may not. And then how do you view yourself as qualified or not? You have to match those things up.
I liked that little grid that you created.
I created a grid, a strategy grid, if you will.
What's that
analytics thing coming in?
It's like the strategy analytics.
That master's degree coming in.
There's an Excel
MBA.
formula, right?
There's totally a VLOOKUP pivot table, like what you said, Jenny.
I knew it.
All right, so it's about internal versus external validation.
Yeah, I mean, look, we're all coaches, right? If you're being validated externally, it means you're getting clients that are paying you, essentially, right? Mm-hmm. And if you're being validated internally, you're saying, I'm damn good at this, right? So ideally, you want to move to a place where you're in that upper right quadrant of, wow, I'm getting clients, and wow, I think I'm good at this. And that's what you're always aiming for, is the external and the internal to move sort of congruently. Wow, big word.
Congruently.
congruently.
I like the voice that you used with that.
Yes.
It felt very
Joshua,
Disney.
what about you? Like, what were you to throw out your blanket statement on qualified versus unqualified and the value?
Yeah, I mean, and we spoke about it, during our chat. I really believe in, and again, some people have been mentioning it, and to some people, yes, it does matter to be certified, and I think it depends on who you're coaching, where you're coaching, and whatnot. For me, I think in my case, and who the people that I want to help, I think, yes, I can have a certification, but also they're not really going to care if I have a certification because they can relate directly to what my experience is. Also, going back to that whole representation thing, right? It's like, because when you go and you search life coach, when you search career coach, who do you see popping up? It's 9 times out of 10, or a lot of the time, you're going to see white men or white women. And so, like, I think that for me, it doesn't matter to them if I have the certification or not. For my clients, I think what matters is that I can help them get past whatever it is they need to get past, specifically with what I work with in self-worth and confidence and being able to achieve or start a goal that they have been thinking about. But the fact that I can share an experience with them and really understand them empathetically and realistically, I think is really important. And then from the certification side, I think it is important for specific clients that you're going to work with, or companies that you want to work with, or whatever executives that you may need a certification. And so I agree with that, and I think that if you really want that, it's up to you. And at the end of the day, you need to make that decision. But again, it goes back to what Jon said: are you doing it for you, or are you doing it for the world? And I think that that's how you can really define and really decide what it is that you want to do, or if you really want to get a certification or not. And again, that can change, right? 5 minutes, 5 days, 5 years from now. So
yeah, you have the right to change your mind.
Mm-hmm.
All right, what about you, Jenny?
I'm gonna just bring it back. Let's throw back to when I talked about clarity and confidence. Because I think being clear in what you can do and knowing your own limits is really important in terms of qualification. And yes, like, we have an imposter syndrome and it's like, oh my gosh, can I do this? Who am I? But like, the things that you know. So the more clear that you are and the things that you know and the things that you can do to help people, or the ways that you can add value, like no matter what you do, and then being confident in those things. And I love that Joshua and Jon both hit on that internal and external, because we build confidence in ourselves in different ways. And like, most people default to building confidence externally, getting experience, getting clients, getting certifications. Other people derive it internally. I know I can do this. I can tell the times that I've done this in the past. I can tell when I've done this myself, and all of those things. And the more, like, no matter how you derive the confidence, that you have the confidence to do the transformation, because especially if you're a coach or a consultant, ultimately that's what it comes down to, is like, when you're sure of yourself, you're going to be able to stage the situation that you can create the transformation or make the impact that you want to have.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree. I think that feeds perfectly into like my statement on it, right? I think we've talked a lot about qualification, kind of being in the eye of the beholder, right? You get to decide as a consumer what you deem, who you want to work with, what's qualified and unqualified. And I think that goes back, all that relates back to, Jenny, what you were saying about knowing who you are and what you can and cannot do. So when I was a school director, we would have people come in with a certain type of student who may have had learning differences, or maybe just needed something that we didn't offer. We were a small private school. So we needed to be able to go back and say, we will absolutely serve your family. I'm worried that we won't be able to meet this need as well as you need. Can I help you find someone who can? And that takes a certain level of like owning the fact that you do a lot of things well, but you don't do everything well. And so I think that's an important part of being a coach, right? If someone were to come to me and say, I need coaching for queer Black men, I would be like, I am not the best person for that, but let me walk you over to my friend Joshua Cruz, who can do that. And so I think that's a really important thing for a coach to have, and that falls into the qualified versus unqualified.
Yes.
Your own understanding of your own boundaries and what you can and cannot do effectively for the people that you're looking to serve, because that can make it great. the whole situation.
Yeah, I really want to piggyback off of that for a second, because I don't know, we didn't talk about discovery calls with clients, but that's literally what my discovery calls are. I'm like, I will help you with this. I'm 100% like, know that I can help you with this. If you're looking for this other thing, if you're looking for the resume help, the interview help, whatever, like, that's it, right? Wow, what is going on over there? I'm just gonna stop.
You were giving a really great, like, amazing statement.
I'm totally done. Okay, bye, Jenny.
Jenny's private messaging me that she has to
No, it wasn't just you, it was everybody.
And then,
And
then Joshua also has to pee. And on that note, I think we have all said all
everybody has to pee.
Because I also have to pee.
And that's how we're going to end this.
Right.
That's how we're going to end.
That's how qualified we are.
That's how qualified this is. We're all qualified to go pee on our own.
Thank you guys for joining us for this really amazing time. We all now have to end because we must pee. And it's just been a wonderful.
Look how red I am.
Okay. Are we leaving? Are you shutting us all down?
Talking about pee.
Thank you, friends, for hanging out with us. Bye.
Thank you, everyone.